I'm Doug Stevenson for Press Plus One. I'm joined by Alan Zweig for his film 15 Reasons to Live. And I actually want to start with something I read recently on the Hot Docs website. It was after your film premiered. And they said something along the lines of, no one would have thought that one of the most life-affirming documentaries at this year's festival would have come from Alan Zweig. What do you think about something like that?
I think that's like typecasting.
Yeah.
I think that that's the way people talk. I think that my film, I Curmudgeon, that they're sort of basing that on, is very life-affirming.
Yeah.
I think that all my films are life-affirming. I think that what they mean is that other films, especially A Hard Name, have darkness, right, and this one has much less obvious darkness, yeah, although, there's a guy who, has a stroke. There's a guy who ends up in the hospital completely paralyzed. Like, I don't know what they mean by darkness, but, yeah, I made the film I Curmudgeon. I meant the title ironically. Nobody really, well, I think they got it, but it's just an easy, yeah.
I am glad that you brought that notion of the typecast up, because I feel like that's what people kind of try to think of you is that negative persona. But this film really shows that that's not what you're all about. Do you think that you made this film to try and get away from that sort of thing?
Actually, I did. Yeah. I mean, that's not the only reason, but I had 3 retrospectives. Yeah. Of really just the 4 films that I made before this, and all of them were hitting the same notes, and I was just tired of it, although that wasn't the only reason. But I wanted to change my reputation in lots of ways, and that it wasn't that I went looking for something that would allow me to do that, but when something landed in my lap, I was just like, okay, right, let's do it.
We were talking about our daughters a little bit just now. Do you think being a family man is part of what made you want to make a positive film like that as well?
I definitely think my daughter's birth influenced me. It's not that direct. I think basically to be blunt about it, I thought that as much as I have a lot of fans for making these, let's say, darker films, right, that maybe I'd be more successful if I made something a little more obviously light. Yeah. And if, it's like now everything is about, can I make a living? So that was a lot of it.
Yeah, things change, I guess, obviously, when you have a family to support. And part of this film, 15 Reasons to Live, was adapted from Ray Robertson's essays. Is that difficult, because are you thinking the whole time, I got to live up to this? Or are you thinking, hey, this is great, I have a guide, it's a little easier than doing something that I'd like to just run with that was my own?
I would say it's somewhere in the middle. Like, basically, Ray told me the title of the book. 15 Reasons to Live. And before I saw the book or read the book, I had decided to do it no matter what the reasons were. It was just sort of like this, a bit of a destiny or fate thing. It's like he gave me the book, and okay, I'll take it. I'll be as accurate as I can be. I think it's also... like I say in the film, I don't make lists, and I wouldn't think about reasons to live. So if I say, oh, thank you for the title, now I'm going to find my 15 reasons or 14 reasons. Right. I don't know. I just thought it came to me. So having read the book and seen the reasons, I thought, well, the reasons, a few of them are a little weird, let's say, a little different than somebody else might choose, but they're all valid. And then when I read his essays, I realized I can't use any of this. Right. When I was looking for stories and I couldn't find any, I'd sometimes go back to the book, or I'd ask Ray, what did you mean by this? Right. Thinking that might jog my search and might make it easier for me to find something. So I used the book and Ray for source as much as I could, but I don't think I could have done it anymore.
Yeah. And he was at the premiere?
He was at the premiere. And it's interesting, he sort of said that, he's a fiction writer and he writes stories. But in this case, he wrote essays, but I still adapted it as stories. So in that way, he felt like, in the spirit of his writing, that the film was, it worked for him.
Right. Somebody else I want to talk about is Chris Donaldson, because the two of you worked pretty closely together on the Mirror trilogy, but I don't think, to the best of my knowledge, that he was a part of this film. Do you guys plan to work together again soon?
I'd love to work with Chris, but my budgets have remained the same, and his salary has not, because he had 3 kids. So pretty well, as soon as he had a mortgage and 3 kids, I couldn't afford him anymore. But he's still, very important to me. I always show him what I do. I always look for his advice. I feel like, I wish that we could have gone on to make everything together, because
you work well together.
We work well together. We, in a way, when we made vinyl, it's like we invented something together, and that was his first credit as an editor, and it was my first feature doc, and you're kind of growing together almost. Right. And you just released a second edition of vinyl, like a new cut. Well, I didn't release it yet in that sense. Chris and I always thought that we could make a completely alternate version of the film, because there was so much, that we didn't use. Yeah, did I read that the first cut was like 9 hours? I don't know. It's not that people like to talk like that, as if I tend to make long assemblies. We had a cut that was 3.5 hours that some people saw, and that some people still say, I wish you'd released that version. And essentially, we made this second version with more or less all the stuff that wasn't included in that 3.5 hour version in the subsequent film. And it's called An Alternate Take, and it's actually much more directly about record collecting than vinyl is, which is a little more about a lot of different things at the same time. So if somebody wanted to see it, where do they go? Yeah, nobody can see that alternate take right now. I mean, that film is now 13, 14 years ago. Right. I'd never thought about having a DVD when I made it. I wasn't really prepared for doing that. Over the years, I've thought about it, but it's been bootlegged so much and it's online so much that I'm not sure. I have a feeling maybe on the 20th anniversary, when there's no reason to have one, I'll make one just so people stop asking me about it, and then we'll put the alternate take. That's what it was made as. There was somebody about 5 years ago who was planning to put out the film, and we said, okay, we have this amazing, cool idea for a DVD extra rather than a bunch of pieces. We'll make a full DVD, a completely separate film with none of the original material, all different material. So that we did that, but then that person sort of fell apart, and that whole deal fell apart. I suppose I could put the alternate take on iTunes or Netflix or something like that. I'll find out if somebody wants to take that. Maybe I'll put them both, and then... So if you're watching this interview and you want to pick it up, you go for it. Well, I mean, that at least gives people the option to watch it, because I'm sure there would be some people who would like to. I read a really neat interview with you. I think it was with somebody who had gone to Seneca with you, and they kind of... I went to Seneca. I went to Sheridan. Oh, sorry, Sheridan. And they were talking about just your career, and maybe a phase before you did the Mirror trilogy and A Hard Name, and then a phase during the Mirror trilogy and A Hard Name. Do you think 15 Reasons to Live is kind of part of a new phase? Yeah, for me, there's basically two parts of my so-called career, which is before vinyl and after vinyl, because before vinyl, that's like almost 25 years that I was just failing, basically, for any number of reasons, most of which have to do with me not figuring it out. Right. I think maybe there's some truth that when I started making documentaries, I was actually freer than I had been when I was trying to make fiction films. I wasn't completely being myself, because I felt like I had to change to fit into what people wanted. And when I made my first documentary, Vinyl, there was no reason I had a Arts Council grant. I just did exactly what I want, and that's what suddenly I had my first success. So there might be some truth to that I failed because I compromised without being asked to.
Yeah.
After the 3 films that are called the Mirror Trilogy now, whatever came after that was the next phase. But to me, I'll always think of it as basically, 1977 to 2000 and after 2000.
Well, you've certainly been successful since then. You picked up the Genie for a Hard Name. 15 Reasons to Live has been great, getting a great response from Hot Docs this year. I want to say thank you so much for joining me, Alan.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.